I watch from the back of the auditorium as Sophie's hands tremble against the podium. The laser pointer shakes so violently that the red dot dances across the projection screen like a trapped firefly. She's been standing there for 45 seconds, mouth opening and closing soundlessly, while Professor Chen waits for an answer to his question. It's a simple question, devastatingly simple. Can you explain the mechanism behind the photoactivation cascade in Figure 3? I could answer it in my sleep. I have answered it in my sleep, actually, during the fevered nights when I was developing this research in my cramped apartment, living on instant ramen and coffee, racing against my own failing body. But that was my first life. Sophie clears her throat. Well, you see, the cascade, it's a process of. Yes? Professor Chen leans forward. He's curious, not cruel, not yet. What kind of process? The auditorium holds 300 of the world's leading researchers in cellular biology. I can see Dr. Martinez in the third row, the woman whose textbook I memorized in graduate school. Behind her, the entire editorial board of Nature Cell Biology. In the front row, representatives from 5 pharmaceutical companies, each with acquisition budgets in the hundreds of millions. They're all here because the abstract for this presentation promised a breakthrough. A complete revolution in targeted drug delivery using light-activated nanoparticles that could treat cancer without harming healthy tissue. The kind of discovery that wins Nobels and saves millions of lives. The kind of discovery I spent 6 years of my first life creating, only to watch Sophie present it as her own while I lay dying in a hospital bed. The process is. Sophie's voice cracks. She takes a sip of water. Her eyes scan the crowd, desperately searching for a friendly face. They skip right over me. She's never been able to see me clearly, not when it mattered. Dr. Martinez, Professor Chen says, his patience wearing thin. Perhaps you could clarify the methodology? The abstract mentions a novel approach to quantum dot synthesis, but the explanation in your slides is incomplete. Sophie isn't stupid. She's brilliant, actually. Graduated top of our class at MIT. Perfect GPA, perfect recommendations, perfect family connections. Her father is the dean of Harvard Medical School. Her mother runs the largest biotech accelerator in Boston. What Sophie isn't is creative. She's a magnificent mimic, a flawless executor of other people's ideas. She can memorize, replicate, optimize. But she cannot innovate. She cannot birth something from nothing, cannot see the connection between disparate fields that creates genuine novelty. She cannot explain something she didn't create. I remember the day I met her. First week of our doctoral program 8 years ago. I was the scholarship kid from a state school, imposter syndrome eating me alive, sitting alone in the corner of the Kidavasa orientation mixer. Sophie glided over with 2 glasses of wine and a warm smile. You look like you could use a friend, she said. I thought I'd won the lottery. Sophie was everything I wasn't, confident, connected, comfortable in her own skin. When she suggested we become lab partners, I said yes immediately. When she offered to introduce me to her father's colleagues, I was grateful. When she invited me to share her off-campus apartment because I couldn't afford the dorms, I thought she was an angel. I was such a fool. The quantum dots. Sophie fumbles with her notes. Her perfectly highlighted hair falls forward, hiding her face. In my first life, I thought she was being humble when she always suggested I should be the one to present our work. You're so much better at public speaking, she'd say. I get too nervous. Lies, all lies. Professor Chen sighs. Perhaps we should move to the next question. Dr. Rodriguez? Dr. Rodriguez stands. I know him. He's vicious, the kind of scientist who dismantles weak research with surgical precision. The data in Figure 7 shows a 97% success rate in your mouse models, but your control group only had 12 subjects. Can you justify that sample size? Sophie's face goes white. I close my eyes and remember. 6 months ago, I died. It wasn't dramatic. No car crash, no murder. Just my body finally giving up after years of ignoring every warning sign. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, diagnosed too late because I was too busy working to notice the symptoms. Too busy creating the research that would save millions of lives from cancer while my own cells multiplied out of control. I was 32 years old. Sophie visited me once in the hospital, just once. She brought expensive flowers and cheaper sympathy, stayed for exactly 15 minutes, and spent 14 of them talking about the conference. "I know you wanted to present the research," she said, not meeting my eyes. "But Dr. Harrison thinks it would be better if I do it. Since you're Since you can't be there, the board needs to see a strong face for the project." "It's my research," I whispered. My throat was raw from the breathing tube they'd just removed. 6 years of work. "Our research," Sophie corrected gently. "We're partners, remember? Your name will be on the paper. Second author, of course, since I've been doing most of the write-up while you've been—" "Dying?" She flinched. "Recovering." "The control group," I said. "You need to expand it. 12 mice isn't enough. The reviewers will crucify you." "I'll mention your concerns," she said, already standing. "But Dr. Harrison thinks the data is solid. We need to move fast. Chen's lab is working on something similar." That was the last time I saw her. I died 3 days later, alone except for a rotating cast of nurses. My parents had died when I was 19. No siblings, no other friends. I'd let them all drift away during my obsessive focus on the research. Just me and my creation, which Sophie would present to the world as hers. I died angry. Angry and alone and drowning in morphine, thinking about how unfair it was, how I'd done everything right. Worked hard, played by the rules, trusted the wrong person. And then I woke up. I woke up in my old apartment, the one I'd shared with Sophie during our 3rd year of the doctoral program. I was lying in my narrow bed, sunlight streaming through the window, my phone alarm blaring. The date on my phone said September 15th, 5 years in the past. I lay there for a full hour, testing my body, running my hands over my stomach, flat, healthy, no tumor, breathing deeply, no pain, no fluid in my lungs. I pulled up my shirt and stared at the place where the surgeon's scar should be. Smooth skin. I thought I was hallucinating. A dying dream, my brain's last desperate fiction. But the details were too sharp, too real. The crack in the ceiling that I'd forgotten about. The smell of Sophie's expensive coffee brewing in the kitchen. The sound of her humming off key to NPR. When I finally stumbled out of my room, Sophie looked up from her laptop and smiled. "Morning, sleepyhead. I made extra coffee. Want to go over the draft protocol today?" The draft protocol. I knew exactly which one she meant. We were just starting the project that would consume the next 6 years of my life. The project that would kill me and make her famous. "Yeah," I said, my voice strange in my ears. "Let's do that." I spent the first week in a daze convinced I'd wake up back in the hospital bed. But I didn't. This was real. Somehow, impossibly, I'd been given a second chance. The question was, what would I do with it? The obvious answer was to cut Sophie out. Do the research myself, publish solo, reap all the credit. But I'd lived that life, or a version of it. I knew how it ended. Even if I avoided the cancer somehow, ate better, slept more, saw doctors regularly, the research would still take years, and I'd still be alone. More importantly, cutting Sophie out wouldn't be enough. It wouldn't teach her anything. She'd just find another person to use, another brilliant mind to parasitize. She'd still end up successful and rich and respected while her victims suffered in obscurity. No, I wanted more than success for myself. I wanted justice. I wanted her to feel exactly what I felt in that hospital bed, the bitter understanding that everything you worked for, everything you sacrificed, was being taken by someone who didn't earn it. Someone who couldn't even appreciate what they were stealing. So I made a different plan. I would do the research again, better this time. I would document everything meticulously, and I would let Sophie think she could steal it. Then I would set her up to fail in the most public, devastating way possible. The control group had 12 subjects, because that's what the preliminary analysis suggested, Sophie is saying now, her voice gaining a desperate edge. The statistical power was inadequate, Dr. Rodriguez cuts in. Any first-year graduate student knows that. What was the actual power calculation? Silence. I did the power calculation. It's in my notes, in my personal research journal that Sophie never saw. The real study needed 43 subjects in each group for statistical significance. I knew that. The reviewers know that. Sophie doesn't, because I never told her. Over the past 5 years, I've been very careful about what I shared with Sophie. I gave her the exciting results, the promising data, the impressive graphs. I let her help with the basic bench work, the repetitive tasks, the busy work that needed doing but didn't require understanding. What I didn't share was the why, the underlying logic, the theoretical framework, the deep understanding of cellular mechanics that made the research possible. I documented everything in my private journals, actual paper notebooks that I kept locked in a safe deposit box at a bank across town. Every breakthrough, every modification, every moment of insight, all in my handwriting, all dated and notarized. Meanwhile, I let Sophie think we were equal partners. I laughed at her jokes, accepted her dinner invitations, pretended not to notice when she started talking about her project instead of our project. This time, when the cancer came, and it came again, right on schedule, though I caught it early with aggressive screening, I took a medical leave instead of dying. I underwent surgery and chemotherapy at a private clinic, telling no one but my doctors. Sophie thought I was visiting a sick aunt in California. I came back thin and tired but alive, just in time to watch her prepare for her moment of glory. "Let me help you with the presentation," I'd offered 2 weeks ago. "I know you're nervous about the conference." "Would you?" Her relief was palpable. "I mean, I know the research inside and out, but you're so good at explaining it." "Of course," I said. "We're partners." I spent 3 days with her preparing slides, coaching her through the content. I made the slides beautiful, clear, professional, impressive. I walked her through the main findings, the key figures, the headline results. What I didn't do was prepare her for questions. "Just stick to the script," I advised. "If someone asks something complicated, say you'll follow up after reviewing the data. Scientists respect cautiousness." She'd nodded, trusting me completely. Dr. Rodriguez is still standing, still waiting for an answer about the statistical power. The audience is getting restless. I can see people checking their phones, whispering to their neighbors. Professor Chen intervenes again. "Let's move on. Perhaps you could explain the synthesis process for the quantum dots. That's the real innovation here, isn't it?" "It is. The synthesis process took me 3 years to develop. It required combining techniques from 3 different fields, nanochemistry, photonics, and cell biology, in a way no one had tried before. I had to teach myself quantum mechanics and advanced optics. I ran over 200 failed experiments before I found the right approach. The process is elegant, almost beautiful. It's also completely non-obvious. You couldn't reverse engineer it from the results. You'd have to understand the underlying physics, the way light interacts with matter at the nanoscale, the specific properties of each component, and why they work together. Sophie knows the steps. I taught them to her, carefully, one at a time. Mix chemical A with chemical B at this temperature. Add chemical C drop by drop. Heat to exactly 340 degrees for 47 minutes. Cool rapidly in an ice bath. She can follow a recipe. But she doesn't understand why 340 degrees. Why 47 minutes? Why that specific cooling rate? "The synthesis," Sophie says, "uses a novel approach to quantum dot formation." "Yes, we can read the abstract," Dr. Rodriguez says dryly. "How does it work?" "We combine several reagents in a specific sequence." "Which reagents? In what ratio?" Sophie's eyes dart to her notes. I didn't include the detailed synthesis protocol in the presentation. "I'd have to check my lab notebook for the exact..." "You don't remember the ratios for your own synthesis?" Dr. Martinez's voice carries clear disapproval. "Doctor, I've been making quantum dots for 20 years. The ratio of ligand to precursor is the most critical variable. You should know it by heart." Sophie's face is scarlet now. "Of course I know it. It's just... I don't want to give incorrect information. Let me pull up my notes." "This is your research," Professor Chen says, his tone hardening. "You should be able to discuss it without notes." I watch her hands shake as she tries to navigate her laptop. She's clicking randomly, opening and closing windows. She's panicking. Good. Dr. Martinez stands. I have a more fundamental question. The mechanism you're proposing requires the quantum dots to cross the cell membrane without disrupting it, but the dots are coated with hydrophobic ligands according to your methods section. How do they achieve membrane penetration? It's a brilliant question, the kind that cuts straight to the theoretical heart of the research. I solved this problem using a modified ligand that switches from hydrophobic to hydrophilic in response to the pH gradient near the cell membrane. It's the key innovation that makes the whole system work. I have 12 pages of notes on the ligand design alone. Sophie has no idea what Dr. Martinez is talking about. The penetration occurs through normal cellular processes, Sophie stammers. Which processes? Dr. Martinez presses. Endocytosis? Direct penetration? Receptor-mediated uptake? It's a combination of factors. That's not an answer. Martinez sits down, shaking her head. The auditorium is completely silent now. 300 scientists watching a colleague implode on stage. It's brutal. It's uncomfortable. It's exactly what I wanted. I think about my first life, those final days in the hospital. How I'd begged the nurses to bring me my laptop. How I'd tried to write everything down, to leave some record that the research was mine. But I was too weak, too drugged. My hands wouldn't work properly. The words came out garbled. Sophie visited one more time after I died. I know because I checked in this timeline. She came to my memorial service, the small, sad affair organized by my department. She cried beautifully. She gave a moving speech about what a brilliant partner I'd been, how my contributions would live on through the research. Then she went to the conference and presented my life's work as her own. She got everything: job offers from 3 major universities, a multi-million-dollar research grant, features in Science and Nature, an invitation to speak at TED. Meanwhile, my name appeared in small print on the paper. Second author, as promised. A footnote in someone else's triumph. That's what I thought about as I planned this revenge. Not just that I wanted to succeed, but that I wanted her to fail, to stand exactly where she's standing now, in front of everyone who matters, and reveal herself as a fraud. Professor Chen is conferring with the session moderator, a severe-looking woman from Stanford. They're deciding whether to end the presentation early. In the front row, the pharmaceutical executives are already leaving. This isn't the blockbuster discovery they came to see. This is a disaster. The moderator steps forward. Dr. Martinez, perhaps we should— One more question, interrupts a voice from the middle of the auditorium. Dr. James Reeve, the editor of Nature Cell Biology. I recognize his distinctive British accent. I'd like to understand the imaging data in Figure 9. The resolution appears to be beyond what's possible with standard confocal microscopy. What imaging system did you use? I used a custom-built multi-photon microscope that I assembled myself over 6 months, borrowing components from 3 different labs and teaching myself advanced optics. The system doesn't exist in any catalog. You couldn't buy it or rent it. You'd have to build it from scratch, and you'd have to understand the physics to do that. Sophie knows we used special microscopy. That's all I told her. We used a specialized imaging system, Sophie says weakly. Which system? It was custom built. Built by whom? By our lab. You built it. Dr. Reeves' skepticism is palpable. Can you describe the optical configuration? Sophie is drowning. I can see it in her eyes, the moment she realizes she's in over her head, that she can't bluff her way through this, that everyone in this room knows she's a fraud. I think, Professor Chen says, his voice cold, that we need to pause this presentation. Dr. Martinez, your inability to answer basic questions about your own research is deeply concerning. I'm formally requesting that you provide your complete lab notebooks and raw data for review by the conference Scientific Integrity Committee. The room erupts, not in shouts, but in whispers, the academic equivalent of scandal. Phones come out. People are already texting colleagues, posting on Twitter, sending emails. By tonight, this disaster will be known throughout the scientific community. Sophie's career isn't just damaged, it's over. She's standing at the podium, tears streaming down her face, trying to form words. I can explain if I could just, but there's nothing to explain. Everyone in this room knows what happened. They've all seen it before, someone trying to claim credit for work they didn't do. The only question is whose work she stole. That's my cue. I stand up from my seat in the back row. All those hours in the gym over the past 5 years have paid off. I've gained back the weight I lost to cancer and then some. I'm strong, healthy, alive. My hair has grown back thick and dark. I'm wearing the designer suit I bought specifically for this moment. I don't say anything, I just start walking down the aisle toward the stage. People turn to look. They don't recognize me, why would they? I've been nobody for 5 years, deliberately keeping a low profile, publishing nothing, attending no conferences. I've been a ghost, invisible except to Sophie. But they will recognize me. Soon. I reach the stage and climb the stairs. Sophie sees me and her expression transforms from despair to relief. Thank God, she breathes. Help me. Please, tell them. Tell them what? I take the microphone from her trembling hands. Tell them about the research. I'd be happy to. I turn to face the audience, 300 faces looking back at me with confusion and curiosity. Good morning, I say. My voice is calm, steady. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm a research scientist at Massachusetts General Hospital, though I've been on medical leave for the past year. I'm also the person who actually conducted the research that Dr. Martinez just failed to explain. The whispers become a roar. Sophie grabs my arm. What are you doing? I shake her off gently. What I should have done 5 years ago. I pull up a new presentation on the laptop. My presentation, the one I've been preparing for this exact moment. The title slide appears on the screen. Photo-activated targeted drug delivery, a complete technical review. Dr. Sarah Chen, primary investigator, Massachusetts General Hospital. I have extensive documentation proving my authorship, I continue. Lab notebooks with dated entries spanning 6 years, witness statements from colleagues, video recordings of my benchwork, and most importantly, a complete understanding of the research that I'm happy to demonstrate by answering any questions you might have. I look at Professor Chen. You asked about the photo activation cascade. It's a 3-stage process involving resonance energy transfer between the quantum dot core and a photoactive organic dye that I synthesized specifically for this application. The cascade begins when photons at 800 nanometers excite the quantum dot, which transfers energy to the dye via FRET, causing a conformational change in an attached peptide linker that responds to the resulting heat generation. I talk for 3 minutes, explaining the mechanism in complete detail, drawing diagrams on the whiteboard, answering spontaneous follow-up questions from the audience without hesitation. Every word is precise, technical, accurate. Every answer reveals depth of understanding that can only come from the person who created the work. By the time I finish, the room is silent. Dr. Martinez speaks first. And the ligand design? How did you solve the membrane penetration problem? The ligand is a custom amphiphilic polymer that responds to pH gradients. At physiological pH, it's predominantly hydrophobic, which provides stability in the bloodstream. But near the cell membrane, where there's a slight pH decrease, the polymer shifts conformation to expose hydrophilic regions. This allows the quantum dot to insert into the membrane and cross via a non-endocytic pathway that doesn't trigger cellular defenses. 20 minutes. I talk for 20 minutes, fielding questions from everyone in the room. Dr. Reeve asks about the microscopy. I explain the custom optical system in detail, even sketching the beam path on the whiteboard. Dr. Rodriguez asks about the statistical analysis. I pull up my complete dataset, showing the 43 mice per group that I actually used, explaining the power calculation from first principles. Sophie stands beside me throughout, silent, frozen. I can feel her presence like a wound, but I don't look at her. She doesn't matter anymore. When the questions finally stop, Professor Chen stands up. Dr. Chen, I think I speak for everyone here when I say that was an extraordinary presentation. The research is groundbreaking. However, I'm deeply troubled by what appears to be a serious case of academic fraud. He looks at Sophie. Dr. Martinez, do you deny that you misrepresented this research as your own? Sophie's voice is barely a whisper. I. We were partners. I thought. You thought what? I turned to her finally. That you could present research you didn't understand and no one would notice? That you could take credit for 6 years of my life because you helped wash glassware and run routine assays? You said we were partners. Her voice breaks. You shared everything with me. I shared the results with you. I never shared the understanding. You never bothered to learn the actual science. You just wanted the glory. I helped. I was there every day working alongside you, following my instructions, running my protocols. You never asked how they worked. You never tried to understand why. You just wanted to be associated with something important because you knew you'd never create anything important yourself. It's cruel, it's harsh, it's exactly what she deserves. The worst part, I continue, is that you visited me in the hospital in my previous life, and you watched me die, and you still took everything. You spoke at my memorial service and cried fake tears, and then you went out and claimed my work as your own. Sophie's face goes white. Your previous life? What are you talking about? I smile. Nothing, just that I know exactly who you are, Sophie. I've seen what you become when you think you can get away with it. And I wanted everyone else to see it too. Professor Chen clears his throat. Dr. Chen, I'd like to formally invite you to present your research in the next session. We'll announce it during lunch. I'm certain the auditorium will be packed. As for Dr. Martinez, he looks at Sophie with barely concealed disgust. The conference committee will be launching a full investigation. I'd recommend you contact a lawyer. The second presentation is exactly what the first should have been. I explain the research from the ground up, taking the audience through the 6-year journey from initial concept to final breakthrough. I show the failures as well as the successes, the blind alleys, and the unexpected discoveries. I answer every question with confidence and precision. When it's over, I receive a standing ovation. The pharmaceutical executives who walked out of Sophie's disaster come rushing back. They find me in the hallway competing with each other to offer partnerships, funding, exclusive deals. Dr. Martinez offers me a research position at Johns Hopkins. Professor Chen invites me to give a keynote at next year's conference. Dr. Reeve from Nature Cell Biology pulls me aside. I want to fast-track your paper. Can you have a complete manuscript to me by the end of the month? I can have it to you by the end of the week, I say. I've been working on it for 5 years. He grins. I don't doubt it. This is Nobel-level work, Dr. Chen. You should be very proud. Proud, yes, but more than that, I'm satisfied. Deeply, thoroughly satisfied in a way I never was in my first life. Because in my first life, even when I succeeded, I was alone. I achieved my goal but lost myself in the process. I sacrificed everything, my health, my relationships, my life, for research that someone else claimed. This time, I've achieved the same goal but kept myself. I'm healthy, I'm strong, and I've exposed Sophie for exactly what she is. I find her in the bathroom crying in a stall. I lean against the sink and wait. Eventually, she emerges, mascara running down her face. She sees me and freezes. Why? She whispers. If you always knew, why did you let me think? Because you needed to fail publicly, I say simply. If I'd just cut you out, you would have moved on, found another talented person to exploit. Told yourself a story about how I was selfish, how you deserved better, you would have learned nothing. So this was all, what, revenge? Justice, I correct. You need to understand what you are, Sophie. You're smart, you're hardworking, you're capable of many things. But you're not a scientist, you're a technician at best, a parasite at worst. You don't have the creativity to innovate, only the cunning to steal. That's not true. It is true. And now everyone knows it. Every search committee, every grant panel, every colleague who might have hired you or collaborated with you. They all watched you stand on that stage and reveal that you couldn't answer basic questions about your research. Your career is over. Fresh tears spill down her cheeks as I'll be blacklisted. I'll never work in science again. Probably not, I agree. You'll have to find something else. Something that doesn't involve taking credit for other people's work. I hear there are plenty of careers in your father's hospital administration. Maybe you can ride his name for a while until people forget about today. I thought we were friends, she sobs. We were never friends, Sophie. You collected me like an accessory, a smart, useful accessory who made you look good and did your hard work. You never saw me as a person. You never asked about my life, my dreams, my fears. You only cared about what I could give you. I straighten up from the sink. But that's over now. You have nothing of mine anymore, not my research, not my friendship, not my trust. You have exactly what you earned on your own. I walk toward the door, then pause. Oh, and Sophie, the lab notebooks, the videos, the witness statements. I've already shared everything with the University Ethics Board and the funding agencies. Even if you wanted to claim joint credit, you can't. There's too much evidence that the research was mine alone. You planned this, she breathes. From the beginning, you planned every moment of this. From the beginning of this timeline, yes. It took 5 years and almost dying a second time. But it was worth it. I leave her there, crying alone in the bathroom. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel cruel. I feel free. 6 months later, my paper publishes in Nature Cell Biology. Sole author. It's accompanied by an editorial about the importance of proper attribution in scientific research, written by Professor Chen. The paper trends on Twitter for 3 days. I give interviews to Science, The Atlantic, and NPR. The pharmaceutical deal goes through, a partnership with Genentech worth $45 million over 5 years. I hire a team. Real colleagues this time, people I vet carefully, people who want to build on my work rather than steal it. I testify at Sophie's ethics hearing. The committee strips her of her doctorate. Turns out she'd misrepresented her contributions on 3 other projects throughout her career. I wasn't her only victim, just her most lucrative one. Her father resigns from his position as dean, the scandal too much to weather. Last I heard, Sophie was working in pharmaceutical sales. Not as glamorous as being a research scientist, but it suits her. She's good at selling things she doesn't understand. As for me, I'm alive, healthy. The cancer came back again last month. It's aggressive, recurring, probably genetic, but I caught it early again. Surgery in 2 weeks, then immunotherapy. My prognosis is good. Better than good, actually, because the research I'm doing on targeted drug delivery, it's starting to work on solid tumors, including pancreatic cancer. I might save my own life after all, along with millions of others. I'm standing in my new lab at Mass General looking at the latest imaging results when my phone buzzes. It's an email from the Nobel Committee. They want to know if I'll be available for a call next week. They can't tell me what it's about, but I should keep my schedule clear. I smile and look around my lab, at the machines I built, the protocols I developed, the team I'm training, at the walls covered in whiteboard calculations in my own handwriting, at the evidence of 6 years of relentless work, multiplied by the gift of time I somehow received. Everything here is mine, truly, completely mine. And this time, when I die, if I die, when I die, eventually we all die, I'll die knowing that I lived fully, created something beautiful, and ensured that credit was given where credit was due. I'll die satisfied. But not yet, not for a long time. I have too much work to do.